a prince of the British royal family, a convicted sex offender, a photograph that would destroy a centuries-old reputation. This is the story of how Prince Andrew went from being the Queen's favorite son to the most disgraced member of the Windsor family in modern history. This is the scandal that Buckingham Palace tried desperately to contain and failed. This is Prince Andrew and Jeffrey Epstein. Welcome back. If you watched our last video, you already know about Jeffrey Epstein's connections to powerful people. Today, we're covering what might be the most damaging relationship of all, the one that cost a prince his reputation, his titles, and his freedom. Prince Andrew, Duke of York, was born into unimaginable privilege as the third child and second son of Queen Elizabeth II. He served in the Royal Navy, was a helicopter pilot in the Falklands War, and for decades enjoyed the benefits of royal life, luxury, respect, and complete protection from scandal. Until one photograph changed everything. Over the next 20 minutes, we're going to trace the complete timeline of Prince Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, examine the allegations made against him, break down his disastrous BBC interview that shocked the world, and reveal where he stands today after settling a lawsuit for millions. This isn't speculation. This is documented evidence from court filings, witness testimonies, and the prince's own words. Make sure you're subscribed, because this story goes deeper than you think. Let's begin to understand how a British prince ended up entangled with an American sex trafficker. We need to understand who Prince Andrew was before the scandal. Prince Andrew Albert Christian Edward was born February 19, 1960. The third child of Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip. Unlike his older brother Charles, who was groomed from birth to be king, Andrew had more freedom. He attended boarding schools, joined the Royal Navy at age 19, and served as a helicopter pilot during the Falklands War in 1982, where he was reportedly in genuine danger, flying missions in combat zones. After his military service, Andrew became known as Randy Andy in the British tabloids due to his playboy reputation and high-profile romantic life. He married Sarah Ferguson in 1986, had two daughters, Beatrice and Eugenie, and divorced in 1996. Throughout all of this, he remained popular and was reportedly Queen Elizabeth's favorite child. In the 2000s, Andrew took on the role of UK Special Representative for International Trade and Investment, a position that had him traveling the world, meeting business leaders and promoting British commercial interests. This role gave him extensive international connections and put him in contact with wealthy business people around the globe. It was in this context that he met Jeffrey Epstein. According to multiple sources, Prince Andrew was introduced to Jeffrey Epstein through Ghislaine Maxwell in 1999. Ghislaine was the daughter of disgraced British media mogul Robert Maxwell, and she moved in elite British and American social circles. She had known Andrew for years through the British aristocratic scene. Ghislaine presented Epstein as a brilliant financier and philanthropist who could be valuable to Andrew's trade role. Epstein, meanwhile, saw Prince Andrew as the ultimate trophy connection, actual royalty. For someone obsessed with status and image, having a prince in his circle was invaluable. Their relationship would span more than a decade and include numerous documented interactions at Epstein's properties in New York, Florida, and his private Caribbean island. It would ultimately destroy Prince Andrew's reputation and end his royal career. Prince Andrew's relationship with Jeffrey Epstein was extensive and well documented by photographers, flight logs, and witnesses, court documents, and investigative journalism have revealed that Prince Andrew stayed at Epstein's Manhattan mansion on multiple occasions. He visited Epstein's private island in the Caribbean. He flew on Epstein's private jet several times. He invited Epstein to royal events, including a birthday party at Windsor Castle, where Epstein was photographed with Prince Andrew and other royals. And most shockingly, he continued the friendship even after Epstein's 2008 conviction for soliciting prostitution from a minor. Let that last point sink in. In 2008, Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty in Florida to procuring an underage girl for prostitution and soliciting a prostitute. He was a registered sex offender. This was public knowledge, and yet Prince Andrew maintained their friendship. In December 2010, just months after Epstein was released from his cushy jail sentence, Prince Andrew was photographed walking with Epstein in Central Park in New York. The photos show them strolling together like old friends, talking and appearing comfortable in each other's company. When questioned about this later, Prince Andrew claimed he went to New York specifically to end the friendship with Epstein in person. He said it would have been dishonorable to simply cut contact without explaining his decision face to face. The British public and media found this explanation absurd. Why would you need to fly to New York to end a friendship with a convicted sex offender? Why not simply stop taking his calls? But the friendship was even deeper than these public sightings suggested. According to court documents that emerged later, Prince Andrew had stayed at Epstein's properties numerous times throughout the 2000s. Witnesses placed him at Epstein's Manhattan mansion, his Palm Beach estate, and his Caribbean island flight. Logs from Epstein's private jets showed Andrew as a passenger on multiple occasions, though the exact number of flights remains unclear as not all logs have been made public. What was Andrew getting from this relationship? According to people familiar with the friendship, Epstein provided Andrew with access to wealthy individuals who could be beneficial for his trade role. Epstein also provided luxury accommodations in New York and other cities, saving Andrew money and offering him a level of freedom and privacy he didn't have at official royal residences. What Epstein got in return was obvious: the ultimate status symbol and access to British high society. Having a prince as a friend opened doors even billions of dollars couldn't open. But this wasn't just a friendship between two wealthy men. This was a relationship that would soon be connected to serious criminal allegations. In 2015, a woman named Virginia Roberts Giuffre filed a civil lawsuit that would change everything. Virginia Giuffre, born Virginia Roberts, was recruited by Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell when she was just 16 years old, working as a locker room attendant at Mar-a-Lago, Donald Trump's Florida resort. According to her testimony in multiple court filings and interviews, Ghislaine approached her and offered her a job as a traveling masseuse for a wealthy man. What followed, according to Giuffre, was years of sexual abuse and trafficking. She claims Epstein and Maxwell forced her to have sex with powerful men as part of Epstein's operation. She was allegedly flown around the world, to Epstein's properties and to meetings with wealthy and influential men. And one of those men she alleges was Prince Andrew. In her court filings and subsequent interviews, Virginia Giuffre made specific allegations. She claimed she was forced to have sexual relations with Prince Andrew on 3 occasions when she was 17 years old. The first incident allegedly occurred in London in 2001 at Ghislaine Maxwell's townhouse, after they went to the Tramp nightclub together. The second incident allegedly occurred at Epstein's New York mansion. The third incident allegedly occurred on Epstein's private island in the Caribbean. Giuffre provided specific details about these encounters, including descriptions of the locations and circumstances. Most famously, she produced a photograph showing her standing with Prince Andrew, his arm around her waist, with Ghislaine Maxwell standing in the background smiling. Giuffre appears young in the photo, and the setting matches her description of Maxwell's London home. This photograph would become the most damaging piece of evidence against Prince Andrew. It proved they had been in the same place at the same time, contradicting any claims that they had never met. Prince Andrew and Buckingham Palace initially responded with categorical denials. In 2015, a palace spokesperson stated, "It is emphatically denied that the Duke of York had any form of sexual contact or relationship with Virginia Roberts. Any claim to the contrary is false and without foundation." But Giuffre didn't back down. She gave multiple interviews to media outlets including the BBC, NBC, and Australian television. She provided consistent details across all interviews. She described Prince Andrew as the most hideous dancer when they went to Tramp nightclub, a detail that would become relevant later. In a 2019 interview with BBC Panorama, Giuffre described the alleged encounter in London. "He is the most hideous dancer I've ever seen in my life. It was horrible. I mean, I had to keep, his sweat was raining basically everywhere. I was just like grossed out from it. but I knew I had to keep him happy because that's what Jeffrey and Ghislaine would expect from me. She went on to describe what allegedly happened after the nightclub. In the car, Ghislaine tells me that I have to do for Andrew what I do for Jeffrey, and that made me sick. We got back to the house and I went upstairs and I had a bath, and then he came upstairs and we all know what happened then. Jeffrey became emotional during this interview, appearing genuine and consistent with her previous testimonies. Her lawyer, David Boyes, stated they had multiple corroborating witnesses and evidence to support her claims. Other witnesses came forward as well. Johanna Schoberg, another alleged Epstein victim, testified in court documents that Prince Andrew touched her breast while sitting on a couch in Epstein's Manhattan mansion while posing for a photo with a puppet of him. By 2019, the pressure on Prince Andrew had become enormous. Jeffrey Epstein had been arrested again on new federal sex trafficking charges. The allegations against Andrew were being widely reported in international media. His reputation was in freefall, in what would become one of the worst public relations decisions in royal history. Prince Andrew agreed to a no-holds-barred interview with BBC Newsnight presenter Emily Maitlis. The interview was recorded at Buckingham Palace and aired on November 16, 2019. The interview was catastrophic. Rather than expressing sympathy for Epstein's victims or showing remorse for his friendship with a convicted sex offender, Prince Andrew came across as defensive, lacking empathy, and unbelievable in his denials. Let's break down the most damaging moments. On the photograph with Virginia Giuffre, Andrew claimed he had no recollection of the photograph being taken and suggested it might have been faked, though he couldn't be sure. He said, "Nobody can prove whether or not that photograph is faked, or not because it's a photograph of a photograph of a photograph." Photographic experts later examined the image and found no evidence of manipulation. On Virginia's claim he was sweating profusely at the nightclub, Andrew offered one of the most bizarre alibis in history. He claimed that at the time he had a medical condition resulting from being shot at during the Falklands War that prevented him from sweating. He said, "I didn't sweat at the time because I had suffered what I would describe as an overdose of adrenaline in the Falklands War when I was shot at. It was almost impossible for me to sweat." Medical experts immediately questioned this claim, stating that adrenaline doesn't cause inability to sweat, and such a condition would be extremely rare and medically documented. On being at Tramp nightclub. On the night in question, Andrew claimed he couldn't have been at the nightclub that night, March 10, 2001, because he was at home after taking his daughter Beatrice to a Pizza Express in Woking for a birthday party. He said he remembered this, specifically because going to Pizza Express in Woking was a very unusual thing for me to do. The public found this alibi strange and oddly specific, remembering a pizza restaurant visit from nearly 20 years earlier, while not remembering meeting Virginia Giuffre at all on his friendship with Epstein. When asked about his decision to stay at Epstein's mansion in 2010 after Epstein's conviction, Andrew said he went there to end the friendship and that staying at Epstein's home was the convenient place to stay. He added that his decision showed a lack of judgment, but not a moral failure. He then said something that shocked viewers: "It was a convenient place to stay." I mean, I've gone through this in my mind so many times. At the end of the day, with the benefit of all the hindsight that one can have, it was definitely the wrong thing to do. But at the time I felt it was the honorable and right thing to do. Perhaps most damaging was his lack of empathy for Epstein's victims. When Emily Maitlis asked if he regretted the friendship with Epstein, Andrew focused on the opportunities the friendship gave him rather than expressing concern for the young women who were abused. He said the friendship had some seriously beneficial outcomes in terms of the people he met through Epstein. The interview aired and the reaction was swift and devastating. Social media exploded with mockery and outrage. British newspapers ran headlines calling it a car crash interview. PR experts called it one of the worst media appearances by any public figure in modern history. The claim about not being able to sweat was ridiculed mercilessly. Within 4 days of the interview airing, Prince Andrew released a statement announcing he would be stepping back from royal duties. The statement read, It has become clear to me over the last few days that the circumstances relating to my former association with Jeffrey Epstein has become a major disruption to my family's work and the valuable work going on in the many organizations and charities that I am proud to support. Therefore, I have asked Her Majesty if I may step back from public duties for the foreseeable future, and she has given her permission, but the fallout continued. Major charities and organizations began cutting ties with Andrew. Universities removed him from honorary positions. Businesses ended associations with his initiatives. The Duke of York's reputation, built over 6 decades, was destroyed in a single hour-long television interview, and it wasn't over. Virginia Giuffre wasn't satisfied with denials. In August 2021, she filed a civil lawsuit in New York against Prince Andrew, seeking unspecified damages for sexual abuse. The lawsuit alleged battery and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Andrew's legal team initially tried to get the case dismissed on technicalities, arguing that Giuffre was no longer a U.S. resident and that a previous settlement agreement between Giuffre and Epstein released other potential defendants from liability. In January 2022, a New York judge ruled that the case could proceed to trial. This was a disaster for Prince Andrew and the royal family. A trial would mean sworn depositions, evidence presented in open court, and the potential for even more damaging revelations. It would dominate headlines for months and further tarnish the monarchy's reputation. Then came another devastating blow. In January 2022, Queen Elizabeth stripped Prince Andrew of his military titles and royal patronages. A statement from Buckingham Palace said, "With the Queen's approval and agreement, the Duke of York's military affiliations and royal patronages have been returned to the Queen. The Duke of York will continue not to undertake any public duties and is defending this case as a private citizen." This was unprecedented. Andrew was effectively exiled from the royal family's public life. He could no longer use the title His Royal Highness in any official capacity. For a man born into the highest levels of privilege, this was a stunning fall. Faced with the prospect of a public trial, Prince Andrew's legal team entered settlement negotiations with Virginia Giuffre. In February 2022, just weeks before depositions were scheduled to begin, a settlement was announced. The terms were confidential, but reports suggested Andrew paid a sum estimated between £7 and £12 million. The settlement included no admission of liability, but it did include a statement in which Andrew acknowledged Giuffre's status as a victim of abuse and committed to supporting victims' rights causes. The settlement statement read in part, Prince Andrew regrets his association with Epstein and commends the bravery of Ms. Giuffre and other survivors in standing up for themselves and others. He pledges to demonstrate his regret for his association with Epstein by supporting the fight against the evils of sex trafficking and by supporting its victims. Many interpreted the settlement as an admission of guilt, despite the lack of formal admission. After all, why would someone pay millions of pounds to settle a case if they were truly innocent? The settlement allowed Andrew to avoid a trial, but it did nothing to restore his reputation. So where does Prince Andrew stand today? He remains technically a member of the royal family, but his public role is completely over. He has not performed any royal duties since 2019. He has been largely invisible to the public, living quietly at Royal Lodge in Windsor. He was noticeably absent from major royal events, though he was allowed to attend his father, Prince Philip's funeral and some private family gatherings. His mother, Queen Elizabeth II, stood by him throughout the scandal, but even her support couldn't save his reputation. After her death in September 2022, Andrew's position became even more precarious. His brother, now King Charles III, has made clear that there is no path back to public life for Andrew, the financial settlement he paid to. Virginia Giuffre was reportedly funded in part by the Queen, as Andrew's personal finances were insufficient to cover the amount. This added another layer of controversy, the British public effectively paying for Andrew's mistakes through funds that ultimately come from the monarchy's estates and allowances. Andrew has lost everything that defined his public identity his military titles, his charitable patronages, his official royal role, his reputation, and his standing in British society. He will never again wear his military uniform at public events. He will never again cut ribbons at charity openings or represent the crown at international functions. He is, in every meaningful sense, a former royal. The Prince Andrew scandal represents one of the greatest reputational disasters in the modern history of the British monarchy. A prince born into ultimate privilege, destroyed by his association with a sex trafficker and his own catastrophic attempts to defend himself. The evidence against Andrew in the court of public opinion is overwhelming. The photograph with Virginia Giuffre, the documented visits to Epstein's properties, the friendship that continued even after Epstein's conviction, the disastrous BBC interview with its absurd alibis and lack of empathy, and finally, the multi-million-pound settlement of a lawsuit he claimed had no merit. Did Prince Andrew sexually assault Virginia Giuffre when she was 17 years old? He has never admitted it, and the settlement was not an admission of guilt. But he paid millions to make the case go away, and his reputation is permanently destroyed. What is clear is that Prince Andrew showed catastrophically poor judgment in maintaining a friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, that he benefited from Epstein's hospitality and connections while ignoring the serious red flags about Epstein's behavior, and that when confronted with allegations, he responded in ways that made everything worse. The royal family's handling of the scandal has also been criticized. They protected Andrew for years, allowing him to continue in his role long after the questions about Epstein became public. Only when the BBC interview backfired so spectacularly did they finally take action. This scandal has damaged the monarchy, and whether the royals live by different rules than ordinary citizens, it has given ammunition to Republican movements in the UK and Commonwealth countries who argue that hereditary monarchy has no place in modern democracy. Jeffrey Epstein's network extended into the highest levels of global power, but perhaps no connection caused more damage than his relationship with Prince Andrew. A prince who had everything lost it all because he couldn't resist the glamour and access that a convicted sex offender provided. This is the second video in our series on Jeffrey Epstein's connections to power. Next, we're investigating Ghislaine Maxwell, the woman at the center of Epstein's operation, her family's dark secrets, and how she went from British socialite to Epstein's alleged partner in crime. If this investigation opened your eyes to how the elite protect each other, smash that like button and subscribe. Comment below. Do you think Prince Andrew is telling the truth? Do you think he got away with it because of his royal status? Part 3 drops in 3 days. Ghislaine Maxwell, from socialite to convicted sex trafficker. You need to see it. Share this video widely. The truth deserves to be known. I'm out. Stay vigilant.